Hey, how do you feel about some high rarity cards, or maybe some foreign ones, or maybe be ahead of the game with others by preparing for future set releases with very quick shipping? Check out EJ Gaming and use code British5 on checkout for 5% off on all your orders. Link in the description.
Greetings, Louis, and welcome to another video. We're still going to talk about Phantom Nightmare. We already seen the set release, and today we're going to cover another new card that we also have exclusive for the TCG. This card is called Swallow's Cowrie. So Swallow's Cowrie basically is an evolution to an old card that we've had since Raging Battle, and this card is called Swallow's Nest. For those who don't remember or don't know about this card, basically around this time the Black Wings debuted, we received this card that basically has the ability of just swapping one winged beast with another winged beast. Before we cover Swallow's Cowrie and its relevancy into this metagame, let's read over Swallow's Nest first, and then like just give a brief overview of like the existence of this card and like how Cowrie differs from Swallow's Nest, because I feel like these two cards are very similar, but at the same time they have very different applications. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin. So Swallow's Nest is this old card that pretty much reads: tribute one winged beast monster, special summon one winged beast monster from your deck with the same level that tributed monster had on the field. So, as I mentioned beforehand, this card arrived here in the TCG around the time Black Wings was a strategy. And essentially, the idea was to just swap out one Blackwing monster with another different Blackwing monster and just like try to combo extend with Blackwings that are already in the graveyard, uh, and just keep fulfilling other plays. This card wasn't super effective at what it was intended to do because Blackwing was already like a cohesive strategy. Now, fast forward to Phantom Nightmare, we're looking at this new one, and let's read over it together. This card reads: tribute one winged beast monster from your hand or face of field. Add one winged beast monster from your deck to your hand with the same level as the tributed monster had. So if you look at this card, it's very similar to Swallow's Nest. The main difference here is that it adds to the hand instead of special summoning it, and adding to that, you can also tribute winged beast monsters from your hand uh, to activate and resolve this effect. Uh, so in hindsight, this card is a lot better than Swallow's Nest because of the context that it can tribute from hand. But at the same time, Swallow's Nest has a very different purpose because it can special summon from the deck. Uh, so very similar to how Swallow's Nest got released in Raging Battle. I think it was Raging Battle. Anyone in the comments who played around this era can correct me on that. Got released for Black Wings. This card's intended purpose and its release in Phantom Nightmare was pretty much solely tied to the Raid Raptor theme. Essentially, what Konami wants you to do with this card is just swap out a Raid Raptor monster for another Raid Raptor monster. And some of these Raid Raptors do have graveyard effects. For example, Mimicry Lanius can banish itself to add a Raid Raptor card. Fuzzy Lanius can replace itself for another copy of Fuzzy Lanius if you if it's end up in the graveyard. And you essentially just want to add cards like Norlanius that also has implications in the graveyard as well, and can also tutor you out for other raid raptors. So now that we looked at the intended reasoning behind this card and its release, let's look at it from a macro perspective, because Despite its intention being for raid raptors, this card has a lot of applications for a lot of other strategies. One main example that we can think of is the Lyrilusk Tri Brigade deck. For those who don't remember this archetype, it was also known as Bird Up. This was a very cool meta contender back on 2021, between 2021 2022. Uh, this was a really cool strategy that was played back then, and essentially, the way this strategy worked was just spamming out a lot of monsters and then just turning them into other monsters with your Tri Brigades. Now we have a card that kind of bridges the two archetypes a little bit better. So there's more added consistency to this archetype. And added to that, they're all level ones. So they pretty much have a cool like card pool of also level one monsters that you can also add by using those cards as fodder. You have Bird of the Beginning, you have Swallow, you have stuff like the Fur Hire, Philo, so you can bridge into Fur Hires if you want to. You can bridge into Raid Raptors with this as well. You can also tutor out DD Crow, which is a very cool hand trap. So essentially, this kind of gives life to other strategies as well. Before we move on to another strategy that really works well with this card, I kind of want to talk about this card's implication with this card right here, Kujakujaku. I know a lot of people have been talking about this card and like bringing up like how this card synergizes with Swallow's Cowrie. There are a few disclaimers I have to give because some people probably miss out on the implications involving this card. So, for those who don't know what this card is, essentially reads if this card on the field is distributed and sent to the graveyard, it can be by any means. You can add one level 4 or lower wind monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, except Kujakujaku. You can only use each effect once per turn. So, one thing that is really important if you're going to play cards like this one, the intended purpose that people are bringing up with this card is the ability to add a recurrent Drawling Lockbird because it is a wind monster with a level between 1 and 4. So, in order to fulfill the condition of Kuyakuyaku, you need to remember that 1, the monster has to be on the field, and 2, you need to tribute it to add a level 3 Winged Beast specifically. I rounded up a list of level 3 Winged Beast monsters that are kind of interesting to look at. We can talk about Cuckoo and Garunix first, because these two could be more relevant if you're playing like the not the Raid Raptor, the Fire King like strategy. If you're like not playing the Sinful Spoil Snake Eye version, and you're playing like another version, like the Tri Brigade one, these are cool targets that you can just add. These are both fire monsters, so they work well with Fire King Island. Cuckoo is kind of interesting because it can pop itself from the field in order to net you a draw, and this triggers the Garoon, the high level avatar, the new one, the new Garunix. It also triggers like the Ponix, which is the level 1 Fire King as well. So right off the bat, you have a little bit of synergy for your Fire King strategy while also having the ability of adding Drawn Lockbird if you decide to like pull up Kujakujaku with the Crowley. Uh, Another card that you can add is the Breeze Deceiver. And Breeze Deceiver is a really cool one because similar to the Snake Eye Poplar and similar to like the Altergeist Maulwisp as well as like Enigma Doll, Candle, and like Salamangreat Meek. When this card is added, you can special summon it. So essentially, what Kaori ends up doing with the Kuyakuyaku, it grabs you a monster that you can special summon for free, and not only that, but it also gives you the ability of the Kuyakuyaku, so it essentially becomes a +1. Take note that if you are going to synchro with this card, it has to be for Blackwing monsters. But outside of that, you can literally just use this as any material for anything else. We also have stuff like Steam the Cloak, which does have a graveyard effect to tribute a monster. So if this card is already in your graveyard and you have the Kuyakuyaku on field, you can tribute the Kuyakuyaku, bring back the Steam the Cloak, and just trigger the Kuja that way. Now that I brought up Kuyakuyaku, because I know that this is a very like interesting topic that was rolling around involving the Kaori, let's address the elephant in the room and talk about the strategy that works pretty much the best with this card. And that's something that I think is going to be helpful for a lot of budget players. And that is Fluanderies. So essentially what we have here is 3 extra copies of Advent with the existence of Kaori. What do I mean by that? So now with Kaori, we have 2 ways of swapping whatever Fluanderies monsters we don't need with either Robina or Egglet, which are the essentially the more important starters in the archetype. One problem that Fluanderies has always had in the past is that the deck is prone to bricking because it does have very unorthodox hands, and they don't have like a really good amount of starters. If you don't take into consideration, if you take into consideration just Robina, uh, like Advent, the map with another bird, and so on and so forth. Now, with the existence of Kaori, you can pretty much just swap any of these Fluanderies monsters for Robina, and that essentially becomes your searcher for your one card starter. Meaning that now your Fluanderies strategy is a lot more consistent, and that is a very, very, very big deal because I feel like Fluanderies is a deck that can pretty much adapt itself into the current format that we have or into other formats. Yeah, post Phantom Nightmare, graveyard reliant strategies are going to be a little bit more common, meaning that decks that can play Droll, Dimension Shifter, DD Crow, like stuff like Macrocosmos, are all going to be very beneficial this format. And with a new card giving extra consistency to Fluanderies, I feel like this deck can pretty much take really good advantage of what's upcoming in the next metagame and just like really work well into like the following format. Uh, Deck building will be very crucial and very important because one thing you don't want to do is brick on like these consistency cards and just have redundant hands. Like that's pretty much an issue that we already have with duality and prosperity. And the reason why you don't see like other pot cards, some people play other pot cards alongside these, like for example, extravagance, and you just end up breaking on too many pot cards that just conflict with each other. Uh, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about this card. I feel like moving forward, Fluanderies players are going to be benefiting from this card the most, while other strategies like Bird Up and Raid Raptors and Blackwings could actually have very funny implications with this card. But yeah, that's it from me. I hope you found this video interesting, informative. And until next time, keep practicing and keep dueling.